Gu Beichen was unconscious. He was as if in zero gravity and heard a female voice telling him to wake up. Was he going to die? Gu Beichen asked himself with his eyes closed. What's the noise? It's better for this woman to shut up. He works 12 hours every single day. He's a great slave to companies. How could he die young? He died while washing his feet. Wait a minute, something is definitely wrong. Upon regaining consciousness, Gu Beichen abruptly opened his eyes and found that his legs and arms were tied, and he himself was lying on the bed. He asked himself in surprise, what was going on here? He could not move. He was tied to the bed. Is this a new heavenly paradise project? How exciting. Thinking about this, Gu Beichen's mind flooded with many memories of beauties, solving mysteries, as well as Kyushu, searching for immortality, improving Kai, building foundations, and the golden core. After receiving these memories, Gu Beichen closed his eyes and frowned, thinking that how his head ached. So many memories flooded in. At the same moment, a girl came into the room and grinned at Gu Beichen, calling him her husband, that he had finally woken up. When Gu Beichen saw her, he asked himself what? A long-legged girl in Qingpao. He, Gu Beichen, was forced by his colleague Hu to spend money in a heavenly paradise, and he died in the middle of the night and was reborn in the immortal world of Kyushu. Today he finally solved the mystery and remembered the identity of the traveler. By this time, the girl began to approach Gu Beichen's bed and climbing on it, telling Gu Beichen that he had been unconscious for several days, which is why this beauty was so worried. She thought that even a third-grade healing pill would not be able to bring him back this time. Gu Beichen thought to himself that this reincarnated body seemed special. On the day of its 18th birthday, it was captured by a demonic beauty at the Asura Gate. Since then, this body has been taking elixirs to preserve its strength. The demonic beauty sucked it dry, treating the body with circulation. Sitting on Gu Beichen, the demonic beauty said that he seemed to be recovering well. After saying these words, the demonic beauty thought that she would be able to start practicing again. Did he know that only with his help, her path of improvement would never be as boring as before? She only felt joy. Gu Beichen thought that he had to find a way to escape, otherwise the memories of countless deaths would become his future. Starting to touch Gu Beichen's chest, the demonic beauty said that today they would defy the restrictions. His heart suddenly began to pound so hard. Is he scared? As soon as the demonic beauty said this, she pierced Gu Beichen's chest with thorns, and he immediately coughed up blood. The demonic beauty with red cheeks and a smile told Gu Beichen that his blood was so intoxicating as before. Every time she sees his blood, she reminds her of the stained blood on the sheets from their first time. Hearing such words, Gu Beichen thought, what kind of horror is this, and how can he escape from her hands? At the same moment, a system window appeared in front of Gu Beichen. She informed him that the Holy System had contacted and found that the host was in danger. Would he activate the rescue function? After reading all this, Gu Beichen smiled and said to himself that it had finally descended from heaven. The standard traveler system had finally appeared. He was given a hard start. After that, Gu Beichen called the demonic beauty a woman and with a confident face told her that an eye for an eye, double payback. He would pay her twice for everything she had done to him. She just had to wait until he returned. After saying these words, Gu Beichen disappeared right in front of the devilish beauty. The demonic beauty was surprised at first and asked herself that he had disappeared. Then the demonic beauty smiled and said that they had been together for 5 years, and she couldn't believe that he had such a plan, but she didn't like it more and more. At that time, it was night outside, and Gu Beichen appeared at the battle path of the Tianyuan continent. Gu Beichen touched his chest and not seeing wounds there, thought that it was worthy of the system, and the wounds were completely healed, but Gu Beichen was stunned and asked himself inwardly, why is this the case again? Seeing the evil expression on the girl's face, Gu Beichen asked her with sweat on his face, saying that he had said it was a misunderstanding. Did she believe him? The girl touched his chest and began to say such words as the wind disperses the remnants, used her strength and threw Gu Beichen over the roof to another roof. Gu Beichen shouted to himself that it was a bad thing. The saint, she was playing with him. After landing on the ground, Gu Beichen did not feel any pain. Touching his body, Gu Beichen asked what did not hurt him. Why did it not hurt at all? What was happening? Currently in the Tianyuan continent, the initial stage, ordinary, then it is the practice of Kai, but now his body is at the stage of building the foundation. Although he is a beginner, but his opponent is weaker, this is also wrong. The demonic beauty said that he was only at the Kai training stage, so why did he reach the foundation period? To which the system replied that it was because he had gained some of the abilities of the Asura beauty maiden. Gu Beichen also asked, what does she mean? The system replied that the holy system would help the host to learn the abilities. There is only one condition, the host must name his affectionate address. After this message, the system showed Gu Beichen the status of a demonic beauty. Her name is a beauty, the level of relationships, the first stage, the acquired abilities of 20%. After reading all this, Gu Beichen asked in surprise, what is that demoness? And what did she call him? The system immediately replied to him that she had named him. The invitation, the husband. Seeing this, Beichen got very angry and started waving his arms, shouting that he refused. She drank his blood, pierced his chest with a knife. What is this? Flirting. At the same moment, a girl from the bathtub began to approach Beichen. She said in a calm voice that he had taken over her windy cloud, but remained unharmed. Beichen immediately broke out in sweat and thought that he got carried away. He forgot that now was not the right time. Seeing Beichen's expression, the girl told him that no wonder he was so scared. He made a surprise attack on her, the head of the 6 counties. Beichen was surprised to hear this. He repeated questioningly to himself, "What are the 6 counties?" The girl, however, bared her blade and rushed to attack. Beichen barely dodged her attacks and shouted at her to wait. His body seemed to have rusted in 5 years. And the forces, why do they feel the same as at the stage of practicing Kai? Isn't he at the basic stage? This is a one-way game. If not for the fact that he was at a higher stage than this girl, he would have lost. She still doesn't understand. She should take a look at his body. The girl, continuing to attack Beichen, shouted that how dare he say that this is a misunderstanding. F*** him, a libertine. Shouting such words, the girl was going to hit Beichen with all her might, and feeling this, Beichen said that he would not be able to dodge this sword. And then he disappeared again. The girl was in a misunderstanding. She did not understand where he had gone. She asked that he had disappeared. Beichen was in an unknown place by this time. Landing on the ground, Beichen loudly said that his ass, no, the pain in his throat from screaming is stronger than the pain in his ass. After starting to check his body and making sure that he was okay, Beichen got to his feet and looked around, seeing the digital walls and many other numbers, asked where he was. After that, a white flash appeared in space and a girl began to come out from there, telling Beichen that she was glad to welcome him to the space system. She was the Holy Virgin of the system, his guide Wai Xiaoyan. Since she felt that the master was in danger, she allowed herself to move the master into the system space and apologizes for this. Sitting on the sofa, Beichen told her that it was nothing. After all, she was the one who saved him. Could she tell what the system space is? Is it the same as God's space? To which Wai Xiaoyan replied that the system space is an endless space that belongs to him. Here he can relax and have fun, as well as use his abilities. Since the owner has just received a new ability, it will take practice to use it easily. After hearing this, Beichen said that it was understandable. It was not surprising that after he received the beauty's ability, the level moved to the basic stage. But the amount of power in his body is only the amount corresponding to the stage of Kai practice. Wai Xiaoyan continued that when he fills out a guidebook or completes quests in his system, he gets a chance to win a lottery prize, which is a celestial object, most likely associated with the Holy Virgin. Beichen, with a cool expression on his face, said that gambling, he understood, so he could pull out a lucky ticket. Approaching the machine with the balls inside, Wai Xiaoyan replied that now the owner has 5 attempts. He can pull one or all at once or piece by piece. Starting to pull out the ball, Beichen said that of course he would pull one at a time. He would pull miracles one at a time. After pulling out the first, second, and third, Beichen's balls turned out to be ordinary and empty. Getting angry, Beichen threw one ball and shouted, "Yes, how so? Empty again." Wai Xiaoyan also told him that from time to time they come across empty ones. After trying again, Beichen for the 4th time was able to pull out a rare 3 improvement question. Beichen asked, "What does it all mean?" And then he viciously began to pull out the 5th and say that this was the last one. He couldn't help but pull it out. When Beichen pulled out the 5th ball, he received the legendary image of Yin. Beichen was happy about it. Starting to clap his hands, Wai Xiaoyan with a joyful smile told him that she congratulated the owner on receiving the beauty, the Holy Virgin of the Asura sect. The image of Yin can improve the possession of the spiritual power of Yin, as well as attributes with Yin energy. Holding the image of Yin in his hands, Beichen joyfully asked Wai Xiaoyan that how could he activate this thing. Wai Xiaoyan replied that she needed to eat. Beichen was surprised to hear this and asked questioningly, "Should I eat it?" To which Wai Xiaoyan replied to him, no matter what he was worried about, each keychain has its own taste. For example, strawberries, mineral water, or smelly tofu with lotus. The joy and smile disappeared from Beichen's face. He looked at Yin's keychain and asked Wai Xiaoyan that he couldn't pretend he hadn't heard the last words. How could such a vile taste exist in the world? Closing his eyes, Beichen still ate the keychain with the image of Yin and feeling what it tasted like, he shouted the word, "creamy." Then, starting to feel a surge of strength, Beichen laughed and said that he felt an all-encompassing force coming out of the depths of his body. After that, Beichen remembered the girl who tried to kill him with a sword. He grinned and spoke, calling her a woman so that she would wait for him. In the morning, on the Tanyuan continent, In the mountainous area of Hu City, Beichen logged out and while drinking a drink told himself that it suddenly turned out that time could be accelerated many times in the space system. After long training here, he managed to stabilize his Kai basics. It's a pity that only the first use is free. Now acceleration time can only be won in a lottery. Although Wei Xiaoyan said that the coordinates may not match. Without finishing the sentence, Beichen ordered the system to show the map. After seeing the map and his location, Beichen said that he was very far from where he was supposed to be. He needed at least 3 days to return to Hu City from here. A few days later, in Hu City, at night, Beichen saw that posters with his face were hung all over the city. He asked himself what the hell. He had only been here once, and already became a libertine who had been hiding in the city for 10 days. Damn it, they tarnished his reputation. There's no way he left it like that. He has to fix his situation. After that, Beichen went up to the roof and watching around thought that it was so hard to wait all night. He stood under the gusts of wind all the time. Tonight they will settle the score. The one who slandered his name is a real bastard. Thinking about this, Beichen started jumping from roof to roof until he noticed a man who was also on the roof. The man also saw Beichen, but Beichen was wearing a mask, so the man did not recognize him. Frowning and shouting asked who he was. Then the man thought that he could see him. It was impossible. The emperor said that if he went out at night in this form, even the ascended ones would not be able to detect him. Beichen, pointing his hand at him, shouted words such as a ray of yin energy, and then told the man to go to hell. How dare he pretend to be him? He would try out new tricks on him, who did not learn from the 3 improvement questions. The ray of yin energy was very fast. He was able to make a hole in the man's hand. Seeing this and feeling terrible pain, the man was shocked. He shouted with sweat on his face, "How is this possible? This masked man can not only see him, but also destroy his ghostly body with his movements. You need to get out from here. We need to find a way to tell the emperor about this." After such words, the man disappeared using magic. Taking off his mask, Beichen called Wei Xiaoyan, and at the same time thought that in the 3 questions of perfection it says that after death the soul will ascend, the body will fall into the ground, and only 3 demons will roam around, called dirty tricks. After summoning Wei Xiaoyan, Beichen immediately started saying that this is a world similar to Wuxia. There should be no paranormal stuff here, so why? Before he could finish, Wei Xiaoyan interrupted him, saying that he had to find out. When Wei Xiaoyan said this, the system window informed Beichen that he had found out why ghosts were appearing on the Tianyuan continent, and he would receive 10 lottery draws. After reading about it, Beichen was delighted and said that if there was a reward, then he was in business. A day later, in the city of Hu, in the eastern market, Nizai Okian and Zhang Sen were walking around the market, when suddenly the owner of the coffee shop invited them to his shop. He asked them, calling them Head Nai and Guard Zhang, if they would like to go into their shop to taste beef. Today he has freshly imported ground beef. While Zhang San and Nizai Ocean were sitting down, and Zhang San asked the servant to serve them each a portion of beef, Beichen was watching them from another table. He thought with a wide smile on his face that this was a policewoman with the surname Nai. What is even more interesting is the guard Zhang sitting next to her. A faint ghostly yin force emanates from his body. It seems that he has found a libertine who framed him. Intuition tells him that success awaits him this evening. Already at night, Zhang Sen was looking around the city in the form of a ghost and thought that he did not see the guy who injured him last night. He needed to hurry to the emperor. After following Zhang Sen, Beichen was still hiding and telling himself that his intuition really hadn't let him down. It looked like his work would bear fruit. Approaching the door of the building, Zhang Sen said words such as, "Do not have night conversations with strangers, the password to enter." After these words, the doors opened. Going inside, Zhang Sen saw 3 men who were sitting at the table. He told the man who was sitting in the middle, calling him the emperor, that he had something very important to say. The emperor asked him what he was doing here. Didn't he ask him to stay in the courthouse and gather more information? To which Zhang Sen replied that last night he met a masked man in the city. They clashed in battle, and he was able to injure him. One of the men at the table stood up and approached Zhang Sen and said that it was not possible. They were ghosts awakened by the emperor. How could these mortal warriors harm them? Starting to take off his outer clothes, Zhang Sen replied that he was not lying. If they did not believe, then let them see for themselves. After Zhang Sen took off his outer clothes, everyone saw a hole in his right arm. The man who approached him asked who dared to do such a thing. Zhang Sen replied with a frustrated look that he did not know for sure. The man returned to the table and asked the emperor, what should they do? The second man also got up from his chair and asked if they should abort the plan and find the one who injured Zhang Sen before continuing to act. To which the emperor sternly replied in the negative and said that in 10 days the attack on the emperor. the plan continues. As the emperor of the Northern Dynasty, he will not wait any longer. He will rebuild his empire. He will ask his partner, Sinuehu, to help them get rid of the attacker. Beichen heard all this while sitting on the roof. He grinned and thought that it turns out that all these scoundrels belong to the Northern Qing dynasty, defeated by the Ming dynasty, and they also have an accomplice. 10 days later, in the city of Hu, on the Western Lake, a man told the soldiers that His Majesty was visiting the Western Lake today, and they should not allow suspicious persons to approach him. They should work out everything 100%. All the soldiers accepted his order and began to separate. But the man noticed Beichen at the end, who was in the ranks in the uniform of a soldier, ordered him to stop and asked that he seemed familiar to him. Who was he? Beichen turned to him and bowed and introduced himself that his name was Chen Nan. He had just joined the guard. Upon hearing this, the man ordered Beichen to return to the formation. After accepting the order, Beichen began to approach the formation and with a smirk on his face. He told himself that he did not think that he would get into the team protecting the emperor. He assumed that it would take more effort. At the same time, the emperor was sitting in his residence and asked one of the servants, "Didn't the head say that she had a surprise for him? Where is she?" At the same moment, Nizai Ocean came into the residence. She had a huge golden chest in her hands. She apologized to His Majesty for making him wait and said that she had been driving out of the city for a long time. Nizai Ocean put the chest on the ground and told the emperor that this was a surprise she had prepared for him. Seeing the golden chest, and seeing that a cool mist was coming out of it, the emperor asked, "What is there? Is this fog cool? Is it ice?" Nizai Ocean smiled and said a word that he would take a look. She opened the chest. White steam immediately came out from inside, and when the steam disappeared, there was a jug with a drink inside and a glass. Pointing at them with her hand, Nizai Ocean said that it was a glass jug, and next to it was a crystal wine glass. The servant who was near the emperor repeated questioningly that glass. "But how can it be so transparent?" The emperor, with a smile on his face, asked her what she would say. Where did she get it? Nizai Ocean replied to him that no matter what, he was in a hurry. Wasn't he interested in guessing what was in the jug? After such words, the emperor touched his chin and began to look at the jug, saying that now he was wondering if there might be wine inside. To which Nizai Ocean replied in the negative, and then the emperor asked, "What could it be?" Picking up a jug of drink, Nizai Ocean began pouring the drink into a glass and telling the emperor that he would find out for himself when he tasted it. Taking the glass, the emperor saw that the drink was bubbling and said it was funny. Then the emperor drank the drink, but immediately began to cough. Seeing this, the servant next to him asked with emotion on his face, "What is it?" When he didn't hear an answer, the servant shouted at Nizai Ocean and asked that how dare he that she gave His Majesty a drink. Nizai Ocean called him Gong Gong and told him not to worry. The emperor smiled at this with all his ears and said something delicious. It is sweet and refreshing, with a subtle but wonderful feeling of bubbles in his mouth. He likes it, but what is it anyway? Nizai Ocean replied that it was sparkling water. The emperor immediately repeated questioningly, "Sparkling water. A very mild name." Nizai Ocean told the emperor that rumors about it had appeared in the last few days in Hu City. It was prepared by a master named Chen Beigu. At the same moment, the guards outside began shouting that there was a murderer there. It was tedious to protect the emperor. Using the demon claw technique, the emperor of Northern Qing rushed in and with a terrifying smile on his face said that they had met again, Ming Guangjian. Upon seeing the emperor of Northern Qing, Emperor Ming Guangjian asked with a surprised face, saying that he was Nu Chiai from the Northern Qing clan. His father killed him. Why is he alive? He saw with his own eyes how he lost his head. Nizai Ocean stood in front of Emperor Ming Guangjiang and prepared for battle. After such words, Emperor Nu Chi recalled how the imperial family of the Northern King Koan was executed. His family was put on their knees and the order was carried out right in front of the last emperor and Ming Guangjian, one by one. Seeing that Emperor Nu Chi was distracted, Nizai Ocean attacked him using a whirlwind to disperse the clouds. A servant near Emperor Ming Guangqian also attacked Emperor Nu Chi using the bone-crushing technique. Emperor Nu Chi, seeing all this, still stood in place and did not try to dodge in any way. Emperor Ming's servant Guangqian shouted that this bastard did not even flinch. When Nizai Ocean and Gong Gong approached Emperor Nu Chi, he grinned and said that their attempts were futile. They would not even be able to stop a scratch on his body. Finally reaching Emperor Nu Chi, Nizai Ocean and Gong Gong were going to attack him, but their attacks and they themselves went through Emperor Nu Chi's body. From this, Nizai Ocean and Gong Gong were shocked. With sweat on their face, Nizai Ocean asked that their movements went through his body. Gong Gong also asked in surprise, "What kind of technique is this? It is impossible to touch his body." After realizing what had happened, Nizai Ocean and Gong Gong simultaneously said that this guy was a ghost. As soon as they said that, Emperor Nu Chi frowned and angrily threw them both away with a wave of his hand. His strength was so strong that Nizai Ocean and Gong Gong hit the walls hard and were unable to stand up again. Having done this, Emperor Nuchi began to approach Emperor Ming Guangqian with confidence and say that no one would save him now. Approaching Emperor Ming Guangqian, Emperor Nuchi grabbed him by the neck and with a smile on his face said that no matter what he was afraid of, he would not kill him. Only if he did not beg for it himself, he would only seize the immortal abode. Gasping for breath, Emperor Ming Guangqian asked that who the hell was he? To which Emperor Nuchi shouted back that he was an emperor risen from the world of the dead, whose power he would feel for himself. After that, Emperor Nuchi's pupils narrowed and he remembered how he was called. The hooded man held a skull in his hands and while in the cave said such words as, "Come Lord, rise up." The hooded man said these words several more times and finally managed to summon Emperor Nuchi. The hooded man happily uttered the words, "Welcome back." Opening his eyes, Emperor Nuchi looked at his hands and joyfully said that his heart, he could feel the pulse, it was still beating. Fine, he was alive, the emperor was still alive. Angered by his words, the hooded man called him an idiot and said that he would not return to reality. He was dead. After these words, the hooded man used his power to hold Emperor Nuchi and tell him that she had returned his spirit to earth with a spell. Hearing such words, Emperor Nuchi repeated the word, died, and remembered how his head was cut off. Then Emperor Nuchi said that for sure he died when the Ming dynasty army broke into the capital, the imperial family was captured, and Ming Zhenjiang captured everyone and executed. Smiling, the hooded girl asked, saying that now he has a chance to live another life, does he want revenge? Does he want Ming Guangqian to pay for everything? So that the Ming dynasty would go through the same thing as the Northern Qing dynasty? Emperor Nuchi asked questioningly, what is revenge? The girl in the hood continued that doesn't he want to rebuild the country? To regain his lost throne? Emperor Nuchi clenched his teeth and shouted that he would take revenge. He would definitely regain his throne. Shouting such words, Emperor Nuchi was able to break free from the girl in the hood's grip. Seeing this, the girl in the hood got angry and called the Emperor Nuchi a son of a bitch, said that he would not go crazy. And the girl attacked Emperor Nuchi with a ray, from which Emperor Nuchi flew back. The girl in the hood began to tell him to listen to her carefully. Ming Zhenjiang is dead, and the current emperor of the Ming dynasty is the then last prince Ming Guangqian. To help him take revenge, she will teach him the technique of the way of ghosts, and then he will regain the throne. Emperor Nuchi immediately told the hooded girl that he did not know how powerful this technique was. But if they wanted to rebuild the country, they needed troops, cavalry, provisions, officials. They would not be able to get one without the other. He did not even know her name, and why she was helping him. Starting to take off her cloak, the girl replied to him that she understood. He was worried. The way of ghosts was really amazing. Once he mastered this knowledge, he would be able to visit the Ming dynasty at will. She helps him because she needs something from the Ming dynasty. As for her personality, she is from the organization of heaven, the constellation of the heart, named King Q. After seeing the girl and the fact that she was a fox, Emperor Nuchi asked with a confident face that she was a fox demon. Are there really demons in this world? To which King Qiu replied that this world is not as simple as it seems at first glance. Before going to Ming Guangqian, he needs to take something else. After saying these words, King Qiu threw a horn to Emperor Nuchi, which began to burn in flight. Catching the horn, Emperor Nuchi looked at him and asked, "What is it?" At the same moment, many ghosts appeared in front of Emperor Nuchi. Emperor Nuchi was surprised to see them. King Qiu replied to Emperor Nuchi with a smile on her face that this was for the ceremony of discernment, during which a special rhino horn was set on fire. Its smoke would summon ghosts as his henchmen. By this time, Mu Zonglu, Gua Ursha, and Leah came to Emperor Nuchi. They informed Emperor Nuchi with a smile on their face that the others had gone down to the bottom of the lake and were feeding the fish there. After calling them all by name, Emperor Nuchi told them that they were doing well. Next year the western lake would be rich in good, fatty fish. After bowing to Emperor Nuchi, Mu Zonglu said that they had to do it. After saying the word, but Emperor Nuchi's neck stretched out like a snake. He directed his head towards Mu Zunlu, Gua Urjia, and Ali, and then menacingly asked that why are they still ghosts? Are they really resisting his order? He also ordered them to deal with the guards and choose one for each the physical body. Falling to their knees, all three of them answered with fear on their faces that they were asking for forgiveness. They just wanted to help the emperor. The demon fox said that with the help of a secret art, you can restore all 5 senses and get the memories of the chosen person into whom he plans to disguise himself. But for this you will have to pay too high a price, lose most of your transparent powers, and being tied to a physical body for 30 years is not worth it. Hearing their words, Emperor Nuchi asked that they were not ready to give up their power. Did they really think that he did not see what thoughts were lurking in their thoughts? For the sake of restoring the country, they should sacrifice ghostly powers. After these words, Emperor Nuchi returned his head back and his neck to its former shape. He continued to say with a serious expression on his face that this was their chance to atone for their sins. There were 4 bodies here. They should choose and use the secret art of transmigration. From such words, Niu Zonglu, Gua Ursha and Alia still agreed and went to the guards in Natsai Ocean. Emperor Nu Qi turned his hand on Emperor Ming Guangjian and began to take away his soul, said that he would take over his body. There would be no more Ming Guangjian, only Nu Qi would remain. In the future they would capture every member of their clan. Then they would find a survivor from the northern Jing clan. They would return him and they will make him the crown prince, and when he takes the throne, the entire Ming dynasty will be in his hands. Gu Baichen was lying among the guards. He thought to himself that Wei Xiaoyan, he had completed the task. These ghosts were summoned by King Qiu through the ceremony of discernment. Wei Xiaoyan congratulated Gu Baichen and said that he had received 10 lottery draws. Gu Baichen grinned and thought that it was great. The reward was received. The pair were saving people from ghosts. If he wanted to become a master of the Ming dynasty, then there was nothing better than their gratitude for saving. After that, Gu Baichen attacked all the ghosts at once, using the power of the yin energy ray. Seeing the ray of Nu Zonglu, Gua Urjia and Alia could not dodge and were exposed to the blow. Emperor Nu Qi released Emperor Ming Guangjian to avoid the ray himself. Falling to the ground, Emperor Ming Guangjian began to cough and thanked Gu Baichen. Gu Baichen got to his feet and said that these few punches were a reward for his tips. He didn't have to thank. When Emperor Nu Qi saw Gu Baichen, he pointed his hand at him and shouted that he was the one who injured Zhang Sen that day. Gu Baichen immediately snapped his fingers and said with a smile on his face that bingo was the right answer. But there would be no prize. Was he ready to die? Hearing such words, Emperor Nu Qi began to laugh loudly. And at this time, a portal formed behind him. Emperor Nu Qi replied to Gu Baichen that he himself was preparing for death. After these words, Emperor Nu Qi uttered words such as that he would disturb him, Mr. Guanyin. After a couple of seconds, a middle-aged man came out of the portal. He had huge wings, and his arms and legs looked like eagle legs. He began to say with a calm expression on his face that the air of this world was so refreshing. He had not breathed such fresh air for a long time. Upon seeing him, Gu Baichen furrowed his brows and uttered a word like, harpy. At the same time, the male harpy flew up and attacked Gu Baichen with blades called bone-corroding yin. Gu Baichen began to dodge them and thought that these kai blades were dangerous and it was better not to touch them. Seeing Gu Baichen dodge the blade, Guanyin started laughing and asking him what he thought would be okay with him. His bone-shattering yin is not so easy to dodge. Shouting the word disappear, Guanyin attacked Gu Baichen with a dark mist and, continuing to laugh, told him that it did not matter whether he acquired these abilities through training or from birth. If he touched his bone-destroying kai, he would disappear without a trace. After these words, Guanyin thought that due to the corrosive power of yin and the deadening neurotoxin used in the ratio of 8:2, one could lose the ability to move, and kai yin would slowly corrode the body, which would lead to death. Gu Baichen was still on his feet by this time, but only his clothes were damaged. He looked at the torn clothes and asked what. His clothes were torn to shreds. It's really dangerous. When Guanyin saw that Gu Baichen was unharmed, he was shocked and asked why nothing had happened to him. To which Gu Baichen replied that he was also trying to figure it out. After saying these words, Gu Baichen attacked Guanyin with yin bullets. Seeing his attack, Guanyin thought to himself that he could not believe that there were people who studied kai yin without practice, and even more so without a teacher. When the yin bullets were already close, Guanyin used the bone petrification technique and was able to defend himself from the bullets. He shouted to Gu Baichen that his attack was negligible. Gu Baichen grinned and asked that he didn't even know. Was that all he was capable of? After these words, Gu Baichen immediately attacked with the ninjutsu technique. Desecrated water. This technique was able to pierce Guanyin's shield and wound him in the chest. Gu Baichen immediately rushed towards him and shouted that he would finish him off before he was injured. Running up to Guanyin, Gu Baichen also used his techniques such as the true power of the moon, the path of the imperial sword, the infernal execution and the magnetic storm. Pointing these techniques at Guanyin, Gu Baichen happily said that it was not surprising that manga characters often voiced the names of their techniques. It was simply amazing. When the attacks reached Guanyin, Gu Baichen asked him what he thought of his attacks with cool names. Guanyin was shouted that damn it, he is only an insignificant person who has little command of kai yin. He should not be forgotten. Shouting such words, Guanyin abruptly opened his wings and shouted such words as great anger of yin. Immediately after these words, a powerful kai yin began to come out of Guanyin. Seeing this, Gu Baichen stopped and said that what a powerful kai yin it was. At the same time, Emperor Nu Qi began to disappear because of such power. He shouted at Guanyin to help him save his life. But Guanyin, ignoring him, still did not save him, and Emperor Nu Qi disappeared. At the same time, Guanyin strengthened his yin even more and told Gu Baichen that the high concentration of yin kai around the body creates a protective shield and significantly strengthens attack and defense. However, this condition has serious side effects. It lasts only 60 breaths, so the battle will pass quickly. Guanyin started attacking Gu Baichen, but Gu Baichen was calm and easily resisted his attacks. He also managed to tell Guan Yin that by activating such a large amount of yin energy, he doomed himself to defeat. Guan Yin got angry at his words and shouted at him to go to hell. This is not the right time to talk. He only had 56 breaths left. When there were 55 breaths left, something happened to Guan Yin and he shouted the word, no. Gu Baichen, with a smile on his face, told him that he had taken control of the Kai Yin energy circulating throughout his body, and this only made him stronger. Gu Baichen defeats Guan Yin. After a few time, Gu Baichen was on the street, and several people were sweeping up the ashes of ghosts and collecting them together. Gu Baichen burned them and told the servants that in the 3 questions of perfection it was said that if mortals eat the flesh of a demon, they will turn into evil spirits who have lost their minds. In order to avoid trouble, it is better to burn the corpse this harpy. The servants bowed to him and called him a master, and asked why he burned the demon's body. To which Gu Baichen replied that the demon's body would turn a person into a monster, so it should not be left. After all this, Gu Baichen left the place in one leap. But a crow was watching from afar, and when Gu Baichen left, a crow flew up to one of the servants and tried to fly inside the building. Noticing a crow, the servant shouted, "What?" The crow, starting to wave a broom at the crow. The servant also asked where the crow came from. The servant wanted to say something else, but at the same moment a crow flew into his mouth and entered the servant's body. The servant immediately coughed and fell to the ground. Seeing this, the other servants anxiously called his name, Hulai. After coming to his senses, Hulai smiled and told them that everything was fine, he just stumbled. Upon hearing this, the other servants told him that if he was okay, then they should continue working, looking after Gu Baichen. Hulai asked himself, thinking that this Gu Baichen does not seem to be from here, so where did he come from? From which foreign organization? By this time, Gu Baichen had reached Emperor Ming Guangjian, Nizai Ocean and Gonggong. He told them that he had destroyed all the demons. They would not show up anymore, so they had nothing to worry about. Emperor Ming Guangjian thanked Gu Baichen, but after seeing Gu Baichen, Nizai Ocean remembered him and sharply shouted, pointing her finger at Gu Baichen, that this guy. Gu Baichen laughed slightly and told Nizai Ocean with red cheeks that the head had framed him about this. Zhang Sen was the real criminal, and of course he had evidence of his involvement in this. They were in his room. As for that case, it was just a misunderstanding. Due to the unexpected instability of the portal, Nadi ended up in the wrong place and accidentally bumped into Nizai Ocean. He is very sorry. After saying these words, Gu Baichen thought to himself that he was glad that he was ready for this, but before Gu Baichen could finish his thoughts, Emperor Ming Guangjian told him sternly, looking at Nizai Ocean, that if Master Gu Baichen says that he is not a libertine, then he was really framed. If he says that this is a misunderstanding, then this is a coincidence. Nizai Ocean should immediately apologize to the Master Gu Baichen. After letting go of her gaze, Nizai Ocean agreed with Emperor Ming Guangjiang and apologized to Gu Baichen, saying that he would ask her for this unacceptable behavior. Gu Baichen, with a smile on his face, replied to her that everything was fine, there was just a misunderstanding again. While saying this, Gu Baichen thought that little Emperor Ming Guangjian's thoughts were really predictable. It didn't take him long to figure out his goals. Emperor Ming Guangjian joyfully began asking Gu Baichen, calling him master, what does he think demons will still appear in the Ming dynasty? What will they do if they appear and he is not around? It would be nice if he was the same as him. Gu Baichen immediately thought with sweat on his face that it was true. All emperors are the same. They all dream of staying on the throne forever. After saying such words as in this case, Gu Baichen snapped his fingers and disappeared. Seeing this, one of the guards was shocked to ask that he disappeared. Emperor Ming Guangjian laughed and said that this was an immortal technique, so it was possible to live forever. Gu Baichen teleported into the world of the system. He immediately told Wei Xiaoyan, who was sitting on the couch with a book in her hand, that in order to avoid problems in the future, it was necessary to disappoint the emperor in immortality, otherwise he would be another pain in the ass. Wei Xiaoyan told him, while still reading the book, that she was glad to welcome him. Did he have any problems? To which Gu Baichen replied with the question, what if she had ideas on how to dispel the fantasies of the emperor dreaming of immortality? Turning the page, Wei Xiaoyan replied with a smile on her face that people who ascend to the throne usually lose the ability to cultivate to immortality. As for how he can get rid of the emperor, maybe it's worth asking the almighty lottery system machine. Walking up to the lottery machine, Gu Baichen replied to her that he thought she was trying to trick him into spending his drawings. But okay, he would pull out 10 grand. Maybe he would get something that would solve his problem. Starting to spin the lottery machine, Gu Baichen pulled out 4 empty ones. On the 5th time he pulled out nourishing pills, gray light, which after consumption allows him to go without water and food for 3 days. On the 6th time he got an antidote, gray. It neutralizes all poisons in the mortal world. On the 7th time, Gu Beichen got a pill for the soul and body, also gray in color. It strengthens the body of Kai practitioners. For the 8th time, he got a crystal ball of talents, blue in color. A ball of talent used in the world of cultivation to test a person's spiritual potential. For the 9th time, Gu Beichen came across a scroll of techniques. The Song of the Green Lotus, the first volume, purple in color. This scroll is the first of 10 famous techniques. For the 10th time, Gu Beichen pulled out a legendary, special ability called, I will help to become great to the point of horror. The purpose of which the words of the ability were addressed. Begins to experience endless fear. The ability is available once every 3 days. The rarity of the balls is determined by the colors. Gray means ordinary, blue is rare, purple is epic, and orange is legendary. Pulling out an orange ball, Gu Beichen said with a smile on his face that he had not only found a solution to the problem, but also acquired something useful. It seems luck is on his side. After that, Gu Beichen came out of the system space. Upon seeing him, the emperor joyfully said, calling him an immortal master, that he had returned. Gu Beichen placed a crystal ball on the table in front of Emperor Ming Guangzhang and said that he had borrowed a crystal ball of talent from his teacher. If it lit up, then it means he is able to use immortality. Smiling broadly, Emperor Ming Guangzhang touched the crystal ball with both hands and joyfully said words such as that he was already on his way to immortality. After that, the crystal ball did not light up, and Gu Beichen told Emperor Ming Guangzhang that it looked like His Majesty had no talent for immortality. Angered by his words, Emperor Ming Guangzhang grabbed Gu Beichen's hand and shouted, saying that this could not be. He was the emperor, how could he not have talent? His ball was definitely broken, or was he deceiving him? He didn't care. He ordered him to make him immortal. He wanted eternal life. Escaping from the hands of Emperor Ming Guangzhang, Gu Beichen, with a serious expression on his face, told him that there was no talent, so there was no talent. It was innate, and no one could change it. He should have known it. If he could not be great, then he would help become terrifyingly great. When the ability was activated, Emperor Ming Guangzhang wanted to say something, but a system window opened in front of Gu Beichen, which informs him that they found that Nizai Ocean meets the requirements for rapprochement. A task has been issued. He must get closer to Nizai Ocean within 3 months. The reward is 50 lottery draws. Failure to complete the task will result in cancellation. Surprised by this, Gu Beichen repeated questioningly to himself, what is the cancellation? After that, Gu Beichen turned towards the exit and told Nizai Ocean that he needed to talk to her if she could come with him. After saying these words, Gu Beichen took the crystal ball and immediately began to leave without even getting consent. Seeing that Gong Gong told Nizai Ocean that since the immortal master wanted to see her, she could go, and she could leave Emperor Ming Guangzhang to an official and a general. Agreeing with him, Nizai Ocean followed Gu Beichen, while Emperor Ming Guangzhang clenched his fist and looked at him furiously, repeating Gu Beichen's name. After reaching a quiet place, Gu Beichen stopped. Nizai Ocean also stopped and stood behind him, abruptly turning to Nizai Ocean. Gu Beichen told her with a serious expression on his face that firstly, he would like to apologize for that incident last night, and secondly, not hearing any more, Nizai Ocean became alert and, with sweat on her face, asked Gu Beichen, calling him Master Gu, what did he want from her? Gu Beichen replied to her by asking if she wanted to become his disciple. Seeing the distant expression on Nizai Ocean's face and not hearing an answer from her, Gu Beichen asked what she didn't want. Furrowing her brows, Nizai Ocean replied to him that she wanted to ask him why she was the one. Didn't he know that this would make His Majesty hate her? To which Gu Beichen replied that no matter what she worries about, she will become his disciple, and Emperor Ming Guangzhang will no longer dare to complicate her life. Having entered the immortal path, she realizes how insignificant the martial artists of the Tianyuan continent are. After throwing a crystal ball to Nizai Ocean, Gu Beichen told her that whatever she was catching was a crystal ball for talent testing. If she had a talent for immortality, then it would appear. As soon as Nizai Ocean caught the crystal ball in her hands, it lit up and something began to happen inside it. Feeling it, Nizai Ocean accidentally dropped it, shouting that she felt a hurricane raging in the ball. Having managed to pick up the crystal ball, Gu Beichen, with a smile on his face, told her that the eye of the hurricane was an indicator of good qualities. He congratulated her. From such words, Nizai Ocean's cheeks turned red and she asked, what does it mean that she can gain immortality? To which Gu Beichen replied with saliva in his mouth that everything was right. She should sign a contract with him and become immortal. Already in the evening, not far from the palace, a servant named Hu Lai, who was possessed by a crow, burned corpses, and the silhouette of Emperor Nu Chai appeared from the smoke coming from the fire. Hu Lai's servant told Emperor Nu Chai that he would hurry. This night is cold, it remains to burn the last pieces. Appearing out of the smoke, Emperor Nu Chai, hearing his words, shouted to him that he could not let him burn them. Otherwise he would have to look for a new person with Imperial Kai. and now he did not want to go ahead against the heavenly Tao of this world. The servant Hulai, making a serious expression on his face, began to say such words as, "A quiet ghost floating on the waves of the Nai River, respond to his name, wake up." After such words, smoke began to swirl strongly around Hulai's servant and Emperor Nuchi. And Emperor Nuchi also uttered words such as, "Respond to his name." Hulai's servant continued, so that he would return sooner, Emperor Nuchi. At the same time, Nizai Ocean and Gu Beichen were inside the bathroom. And while Nizai Ocean was bathing, Gu Beichen sat at the table and read a book, and also told her, calling her dear disciple, that he could not believe that her family's technician, the body of winds and clouds, was actually it as a technique for perfecting immortality. But part of it was lost, and as a result, the technique was incomplete. Besides, it is a martial art of wind, whose owners are very purposeful. It looks like he will have to chat with Wai Xiaoyan today. After saying these words, Gu Beichen abruptly stood up and looked towards Nizai Ocean, called her name. Frightened by this, Nizai Ocean hid under the water. Seeing this, Gu Beichen smiled and said that he would not be gone for long. Later she could take the second half of the pill for body and soul and continue to restore her energy by absorbing spiritual power. Still underwater, Nizai Ocean gurgled that she knew, and after a few seconds, she got up and started looking around, arguing to herself out loud that he had already left. Coming out of the bath, Nizai Ocean, with red cheeks, told herself what kind of teacher he was. He just gave her his pills. She thinks this is an excuse, that he is not a libertine. After these words, Nizai Ocean wrapped herself in a towel and went to the table, seeing the pastries there. With bright eyes began to stretch out her hands to her and ask herself that wasn't this the popular GIF England pastry that was so difficult to get. And this Gu Beichen was able to get her. For the sake of baking, she would be polite to him tonight. As soon as Nizai Ocean wanted to take one of the pastries, suddenly Gu Beichen's hand grabbed the carving first and ate it in front of Nizai Ocean, telling her by giving her a thumbs up that once again he wanted to pay her a belated compliment. She is very beautiful. After saying these words, Gu Beichen disappeared. Nizai Ocean remained speechless for a few seconds, and then viciously shouted that he was a libertine. She would kill him.